Hi, everybody. Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Wings channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of January 20th through 26th. We've got a few things going on. The annual conjunction of the Sun and Pluto falling right around Inauguration Day in the US. That's interesting. And then we also have a Mercury opposite Mars this week, both of them hitting Uranus at the same time. Then Saturday, a nice Venus trine Mars. And then Sunday, a couple nice ones too. Mercury sextile Neptune, Venus sextile Uranus. So some sweet stuff on the weekend to talk about. So first off, a little business. The Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog and channel on YouTube. And if you like what you see here, become a follower, please. And when you become a follower, you have to remember to turn on your notifications or you're not going to know when the blog comes up. So remember to do that. And remember, it was a podcast long before a YouTube channel, which has been several years now, but podcast, so podcast, it's still available in podcast form is my point. Same blog, podcast form, only audio feed, frees you up to be able to do other things, right? While you're listening to the podcast. So just look up Astrological Winds channel on your favorite podcast. I know Apple podcast carries it. There's a bunch of others too. You just got to look it up. You'll find it out there. Also, another way to find it, Astrological Winds channel has its own Instagram page. So if you become a follower there, you'll see the link come up for the blog every week in your newsreel. And then the best way otherwise besides YouTube is on my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. There's a tab up top that has blogs, and that'll take you directly to the YouTube blog. And there's usually about 3 or 4 months worth of blogs there. So you can always go back and refer if you need to check out the monthly. My annual one is there. If you haven't checked out the annual one yet, you need to go back and check that out. It's a big year of change this year, 2025. So want to make sure you do that. So yeah, so it's available. And also the website does have all my professional services listed there. I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years, 7 years of training. I'd love to do yours or somebody else's chart. If you have a group looking for an event or if you're a student, please check out the website for all that information, pricing. I can work with you on that stuff. So I really appreciate that. And the big thing I ask everyone to do every week is to pass the link of the blog along to somebody else you think might appreciate it and let them make that decision. It's the way the blog has grown for years now. And I really like it growing that way in the sense that it feels really organic that way, you know. So let me get into this and I'll get a little more details on that stuff later. First thing I wanted to mention, just a little backtrack to that full moon last week. And remember, it was in Cancer, right? Conjunct the Mars retrograde, right? Very interesting with the exact hit to Uranus and the trine to Neptune. And I said, well, things could, this could be one of these situations where people really see a situation for where it is and how it's really hurting them, the Mars retrograde, and then all of a sudden see an opportunity to make a quick change that it's Uranus based on their ideals, the Neptune. And what happened last week? We got a ceasefire in the Middle East between Israel and all the different groups that have been fighting them there, Hamas and all who it may be. And that just fits that situation so well. A sudden opportunity to change something, Uranus, that is a very violent situation that's been hurting people in their homelands and their families. Moon, Mars, retrograding Cancer. How perfect, right? And then, coming up with a compassionate solution that is based on the ideal of peace, Neptune. Now, it's interesting this happened right in the middle of Mars retrograde and when the full moon was on it. And, my suspicion is it may not last. It may, when Mars goes direct, things may change again, or when Mars goes into Leo, things may change again. But we will see. I mean, really kind of cool how that was a great story in the world that followed along exactly how that full moon kind of manifested. And hopefully you got that too. Like I said, it was one of those situations where I think the Mars retrograde could really show us where our energy was really off, and especially in relation to Cancer with resources, family, home, nationalism, things like that. But all of a sudden, maybe that brings up some new opportunity or idea that comes into your life and based more on what your true ideals are. Hopefully, something like that happened for you too, you know. But I really felt that was the best way last week when I was talking about that full moon for something good to come out of it, you know. So, anyway, first two things I want to talk about, the first two transits, one of them's up on the board. It's the annual conjunction of the sun to Pluto. And this year, of course, in Aquarius, right? First degree of Aquarius. And also on Monday and Tuesday, Mercury is square Chiron. Now, in the United States, that's Inauguration Day. That's the day the new administration is actually coming in. So, that to me, wow, there's a lot of things, this and this, these first two things I'm going to talk about that are very fitting for that situation. Okay. So like when you think about this first, like, you know, when you think about, and, you know, and when the, and by the way, when the inauguration comes, I will do an inauguration chart. So like I did for the Biden administration, we can take a look and see what seeds were planted on inauguration day that will likely bring up and manifest certain events in the next 4 years for this administration. So I will take a look at that once we get the exact time that he's sworn in, which is what we'll need for that. But anyway, Mercury square Chiron, right away, this shows me, okay, what's going on with Mercury square Chiron? This is when we're really pushy about the things we believe in, about our ideas, and we get coercive, we get aggressive, we can get annoying to other people, we can even hurt other people with our words because there's an insensitivity to this. But we really feel like strongly that we believe in something and we really want to push that energy and we want to push it now, and that can really disturb the people that we're pushing it onto. So, you know, and you got to remember too that other people may, you know, the reason they may be disturbed is they may not be agreeing with you, so they maybe try to push back at you. And the best thing I can say about this is it does open up our mind many times to like other things, to being curious. But once again, like let's just think about how that relates to a new administration coming in, which is really based on wanting to change a lot of things. Now, you know, we'll actually see if that happens. You know, we hear this all the time, how new administrations want to change things. This one already had a chance once to change things and really didn't live up to a lot of its promises. And so like and a lot of the things it did do didn't actually work out that well. So once again, we have a situation here. It'll be really interesting to see in the future whether these ideas that are very strong coming in are going to last. And that's the same way with you. Now, really interesting is the sun conjunct Pluto at the same time, because what is that all about? That is bringing up very deep, intense emotional experiences and feelings within us, like very profound stuff, really intensely deep emotional stuff that is transforming your world. That's, you know, forcing you to deal with things that you may have been trying to put off for a long time, things that are in a state of decay, in a state of disrepair, in a state of falling apart. Sun Pluto is all about tying into the birth, death, rebirth archetype, right? So it's very interesting, once again, you know, in our lives, this is a time where we really need to assess that stuff. Like, what is falling apart? What are there changes that we're resisting? You know, and that, you know, that to certain things that are needing to die away in our life, and in order to allow transformation to come in, and that may a lot of times have to do with repairing situations that we have been neglecting for a long time. But like what this also can do is create power struggles, especially with authorities, people who have influence or power over us we can get very upset with. We may not like the way decisions they're making that are affecting us. And we can get in really serious power struggles with this, and it can really combine with the Mercury square Chiron, where it can get to some really edgy, argumentative type stuff. I mean, this is really the energy of coercion and propaganda. So think about that in relation also to a new administration coming in. And I'm apolitical, you guys. I'm an observer. Okay. I'm an observer of history and society. That's part of my job as a professional astrologer, especially in an interest in mundane events, is to remain objective, right? But when you see, no matter who would be coming in under this energy, we have to really realize that this is the energy of coercion, propaganda, power tripping, very powerful people in control, people who you may not be able to get at, you know, very, very, very powerful, entrenched energy when it comes to like someone having power. And this is interesting too. Sun Pluto also has a lot of connections to the underworld. So think about that in your life too. There may be issues coming up there that where you've dealt with that. And here's another thing about this stuff. Proclivity for violence goes up during this kind of energy too. So it's once again not allowing the power struggle to get so out of hand that all of a sudden it ends up becoming something violent, right? But we have a really good opportunity to see how this is going to work once again in the United States with an inauguration day, with an administration that has a leader who has a tendency to really be a blowhard, right? He really like just stuff just spews out. A lot of it's not true. A lot of it's just to get a reaction. A lot of it's just to, try to, shake things up. And so you take Mercury square Chiron with Sun conjunct Pluto, and it's someone who thinks, they have some kind of mandate to push their thing. And that could end up being very painful. And it's interesting to see because the promise of this administration coming in is to change a lot of things, which is what they promised the first time they came in. And I think they found out, it's not so easy to change something that's so strong and powerfully entrenched, right? Pluto kind of energy, institutions that are powerfully entrenched, that have a lot of, say in what's going on. And they're like dinosaurs, even if they are slowly falling apart, they're still like, and they're still difficult to bring totally down and change. And so like the danger here is that a lot of the people who followed him and this administration and are his followers were promised a lot of things to make their life better. Things that not necessarily the powerful and wealthy would think that make their life better. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he, in the middle of these two groups, where he's part of that group of elite, and at the same time made a lot of promises to benefit everyone, how this is going to play out, in this energy. And so, but in your own life, remember, this is going to be a very powerful day, and it can result in some powerful struggles with other people, so you need to be very aware of that there's a lot of things decaying around you, and there's a time to make a change. And if you're trying to be pushy or coercive, you're probably going to run into a lot of power struggle type stuff. Now, go to Thursday, and it's really almost, I don't want to say a complete continuation, but it continues that story. We have Mercury opposite Mars retrograde, right? And they're both exactly hitting Uranus. And I don't know why I have Neptune there. It's Uranus, actually. So Mercury is going to trine Uranus, and Mars at the same time is going to sextile Uranus, right? And so the driver here is the Mercury opposite Mars. And once again, this is very fitting with what the Mercury Chiron and Sun Pluto can be up to. This is being about so married to your thoughts and beliefs and opinions that you are just trying to push them down other people's throat. And the reaction of the people to that is defensiveness, is they're going to argue right back with you because everybody is egotistically attached to their ideas and beliefs. And right now they're scared because of Mars retrograde in Cancer. They're scared that a lot of their needs and security are not being met. We have a really hard time separating our mind, intellect, and ego from what we believe in under a Mercury Mars opposition. And we try to force it down each other's throats, and all we get is an argument, you know? I mean, this is really, like I said, really is kind of going to pull in to that energy of the Sun, Pluto, and Mercury, Chiron, if we are really trying to push something. I mean, we can get very, very aggressive in the way that we're trying to push things. So, and a lot of it, is posturing. It really is. It's just like, our egos being combative in their attitude towards others, and seeing everything as a threat, and feeling resentful about everything, and feeling resentful about people who believe something different than me. How dare them? I mean, this is America here where I am. We were founded on the beliefs that we're all supposed to be able to believe what we want to believe. But, TikTok goes down, is free speech going away? There's a lot of things that this Mercury Mars can get like behind and see something and really attach to it and be like, wow, this is really, really tough. So really, it really requires disciplining your mind in order not to be impulsive. We can be so impulsive with this energy that we end up making decisions on the fly without thinking them through that we regret right away, or we realize just makes the situation worse. And if we're still defensive posturing, even though we may be wrong, we still won't back down from it. you know Sounds a lot like where a lot of people are at these days. I mean, both parties need to come to an agreement, and they both need to agree that that disagreement is sometimes what happens. Now, what's interesting about this energy too is the connections to Uranus, right? Because here's what Mercury trine Uranus is saying: everybody's got ingenious ideas, actually. Everybody does. There's some incredible ideas out there on how we can bring change in, you know, and Mars shows that we have the Mars sextile Uranus shows we have the opportunity to do that too. That we can actually do that now. But we have to, once again, first discipline some of this anger, ego, and subjectiveness so that we can allow the higher download, the intuition of Uranus to actually come in. And then we can get in a really good flow where the intuition can feed the intellect some really good ideas and get in harmony with what we're seeing. So, I mean, this is like really interesting once again in relation to what's going on with the new administration, because there are a lot of new ideas, but it is causing a lot of people like mental breakdowns where they can't get out of their own subjective defensive reactions to it, right? But like the opportunity to put this stuff in is there now. There's a great opportunity to change. Now, what I worry about, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm an astrologer. Sometimes I don't know if we tell the truth enough a lot about what we see. The Mars retrograde is really weak in Cancer. So a lot of these ideas, once again, may be coming from a weak position initially. They're coming from a place where we're feeling defensive, where we're feeling like our needs are not being met. So they may look brilliant now, but when Mars goes direct at the end of next month, and even a month or so later goes back into Leo, they may not look that great anymore. We may see that we were coming out of a place of ego that was scared and fearful and posturing a lot. And so that is something we really have to take a look at. Like, are these ideas that we think can bring great change in coming from a place that's rooted in fear of not having enough, basically? Because if it is, down the road, most likely these ideas are going to have problems. They're not going to be thought out well enough, and they're going to find out that there's like problems in the reality of trying to actually get them going. So very ingenious stuff. And the same in your own life, looking for like solutions to some of the issues you may be having with others, that these arguments and defensive positions go on, and you may see them, and you may have the opportunity to act on them. I mean, so like, this is something we want to really, you know, be clear of, that, when trying to like change things, but we don't want it to come from a place where we're being too impulsive and we're acting out of our fears. So, um, it is a good time, though, to initiate any kind of new start, as long as you feel like, once again, you're on top of the discipline in that. And I mean, people will definitely, with Uranus, they are respecting freedom, right? They're pushing freedom and they're respecting freedom and independence still. So that may be like, something where, we can find some kind of agreement with those we're disagreeing with, where like, hey, everybody has a right to see things their own way and give each other that independence, but knowing at the same time that that the world really is ready for a change, and that our world, wherever you're stuck, is ready for a change, rather than trying to be defensive about it and getting like, wow. Now, what's really interesting, I don't have this on the board, but I talked about it in the monthly, and that is, on Friday is the third and final hit of Saturn semi-square Pluto, right? And remember what I said about that. That has been in effect. It was in effect all of last year and right up until now. And that is basically watching the structures of society, because there are two outer planets, structures, Saturn, of society falling apart. Pluto literally being destroyed. And the big issue with this, as I've said it over and over again, anybody who thinks that they can go back to old school ways of controlling things to make it better, they're going to find out that's not the case. That actually we need to clear out this old stuff that's frustrating and blocking us, and allow Pluto to come in and transform all these institutions. So once again, if this new administration actually can do that and bring us into a new age with all that, that's great. But if they think they're going to just use their power and their wealth to do that, what they're going to find out is they're going to end up very frustrated, because reality is not going to agree with them. Evolution is going to continue to go on. Change is going to continue to go on. Transformation is going to continue to go on. And no one has the power to stop that. And no group actually has the power to stop that. Maybe they can slow it down, but it's usually causing them more frustration than anybody else. So, once again, how is this new change going to work with that energy that's ending now? Is it going to try to go back to old school control power tripping? Or is it going to allow the changes to really transform? Not just talk about, oh, we need changes. Is it really going to happen? Now, the weekend, the energy totally shifts into a very positive thing with these three aspects. First, on Saturday, a beautiful Venus trine Mars. So it's a great weekend for socializing. I mean, this is really great harmony and balance in relationships with others. And it can spark relationship, it can spark romantic interest. And if you're already in a romantic relationship, this really sparks up the sexual romantic energy between you. And if nothing else, this creates a lot of creative energy between people where they can do a lot of creative stuff together. So there's a really great balance just between love and desire. And if you're not in a relationship, you can really feel the flow of your own creativity coming out, and a lot of times that will lead to connecting with others through the Venus. So I'm very, like, being very assertive about what your creative objectives are, and therefore it brings people in a harmonious way. And like I said, the other thing with this too is you could get some benefit financially during this period too. It could be a financial benefit might come in from that too. And then Sunday, two really sweet, one beautiful and one interesting sextile. Let's say, okay, change those adjectives a little. You guys always know when I say interesting, your ears perk up because I'm about to be like, okay, that's interesting. But Mercury sextile Neptune is a beautiful Sunday vibe aspect. This puts us in a very contemplative, meditative frame of mind. The intellect gets very creative. It goes over into the right brain, right? It gets into abstract things. It can visualize. It can imagine things. It's very inspired to bring that stuff out. It's also a lot of times people go on a spiritual journey, which, Sunday traditionally in our world for many of us is a day of what's supposed to be more, dedicated to the spiritual side. So it's a great time for spiritual study, that kind of thing. Even very sensitive to like subtle world type stuff, subtle energy, different kinds of beings and energies and dimensions, psychic energy, that kind of thing, very, very, very much where that, and then a good sense of what's going on in each other's minds too. It's almost like we can read each other's minds. It's a very almost like really telepathic type of energy that we have, and can give some great intuitive insights. So that's really sweet. And then we have a Venus sextile Uranus, which is also really nice. This is like, it brings opportunities to connect with different people that you normally don't connect with, who bring some really stimulating ideas and energy into your life. So a lot of times it can just be a short-term connection. It can be like two ships passing in the night that have some valuable cargo for one another. Like it's just like, so, and it's wanting to have new experiences, wanting to have some fun, something creative and different. So like if you're in with old relationships, that's a great way to spend this day, is do something different, do something to perk it up. But if you're not in old relationships, this is a great day to go out and meet and connect with other people. And if you start, many times if you start a new relationship in this time, in this energy, it can be short term, or it can be, and if it's romantic or sexual, it can be even alternative in the way that it's expressed. It may not be a traditional type of relationship. Or if you end up with connecting with someone on that level, they may be someone who's very different than you, and you guys have a lot of exciting stuff to feed each other, which could keep that relationship very lively and exciting for a long time. And this is another one, just like the Venus trine Mars, a quick one-time financial windfall is a good possibility here. If you're an investor or something, this, you may get a quick one-time windfall this week. And this also stimulates our own creativity. We may want to actually expose ourselves to a new type of art, like go out and check it out ourselves, or even involve ourselves and create, especially with the Venus trine Mars too. Create, take action with some new kind of art. So real positive weekend after some kind of more intense, I mean, obviously intense energy with the Sun Pluto in particular, and the Mercury Mars. Like, how we're going to handle that is going to require a lot of discipline, but it shows that this is a great opportunity for change, you guys. This is a week where a lot of the Aquarian energy can be really launched off. And, look at that in your own life. What new directions you want to go to? What do you want to move away from now? Where, try to get out of, like, moving away from your own defensive posturing, which could be what is like stopping you from making changes. And then if you can do that, maybe all of a sudden on the weekend, you find out, oh, I'm making connections with like new people that, have similar ideals to me. That's another thing about this Mercury Neptune too. It's a great creative energy for words. So if you're a poet or a lyricist or a storyteller or a rapper, or a hip hopper, this is a great weekend to work on your stuff, and with Venus Uranus too, because Venus is the energy of creativity. So a real good creative weekend, um, for your own creativity or for relationships and the way you connect with people. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. It is a free video blog that I've been doing on YouTube now for several years. It's been like 5 or 6 years now, right? And I'd really like you to pass it on right now. That's your job. I just did mine. Your job is to do one little thing. Go into your contacts, find someone right now to pass the link on to. God, it's going to take you about 15 seconds, right? 15 seconds for me, please. Thank you. If you'd like to give a donation, because the blog actually does cost me money a little bit every month. There's my Cash App handle, $ Matthew with 2 T's, Lawton, Lauten, or Venmo at Matthew hyphen Lawton, Lauten. No amount is too small. All right, you guys, even $5 helps me out. Also, I am a professional astrologer. I've done loads of charts. And I really want to do yours when you're ready for that. And I really want to do anybody else that you know who's ready for that, because it's going to be a really enlightening experience for you. And it's something that you will have with you your whole life. And it won't be a computer printout with a whole bunch of information that just jams your brain up. And it won't be a friend reading from a book that you're just like, what are they saying? I'm going to give you a very holistic reading that's going to help you for the rest of your life. And I have all kinds of different readings that I give. If you check out the website, look at the menu, the prices are there. I can work with you if you need to do payments or whatever. Don't be afraid to ask, okay? Don't be scared. Email me, mattthue823@gmail.com. Remember, it's available on podcast too. There's an Instagram page set up for Astrological Winds channel too. I appreciate all you guys. Next week we got a new moon. We've got a new moon. What's it in? It's in Aquarius, of course. Where's it at? It's at 10 degrees Aquarius. And Mercury's going to be going into Aquarius too next week. So a lot of Aquarian energy going on next week. And next week is also the week that the planet that has most to do with Aquarius, Uranus, goes direct. So you can see already, this is going to take a lot of this energy that's hatched this week and start pushing it forward, right? Aquarian ideals time. We're entering the age of Aquarius for sure, you guys. We're there. It's time for everybody to figure out who exactly they are and where they exactly fit in that bigger picture called society, so we can all make it a better place for all of us. Okay, I'll see y'all next week.